Hi friends, it is the 23rd day of the month, so we are looking at Proverbs, the 23rd chapter and the 7th verse. And let me encourage you to like and share and subscribe to this channel because we want to make sure that you know what's happening every time we post a new video. Thank you so much for doing that. Share it with a friend. Encourage them to also do the same. Like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it so much. So let's get to it. This scripture is talking about what you think about yourself in your heart. It talks about the root system that is dominant in your heart and in your thought process. What do you think about yourself? I want you to sit and think about that for a minute. How do you view yourself? How do you feel? How do you feel about where you are in life? How do you feel about the things that you've accomplished or the things that you have not accomplished? How do you view yourself? Let me ask you this. What kind of conversations do you have in your own head about yourself? Do you put yourself down? Do you feel like you're not good enough? Do you kind of subtly sabotage yourself when you have opportunities before you? What do you think about yourself and what kind of internal conversations do you have? That's what that means about as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. The things that you think about in your heart, in your mind, in your subconscious, those non-verbalized conversations that you have about yourself. Sometimes those are conversations or recordings that you're playing because of things that people have said about you in your past, or they've called you to your face and you're replaying that over and over and over in your mind. Let me encourage you to seek God on how to change that thought process. We've got to start thinking different, got to start thinking better about ourselves, because God doesn't make junk. Doesn't make junk. People make mistakes. Sometimes things don't turn out the way we think they should, and that's okay. That's life. Get over it. Dust the dirt off of your knees, clean it up, do whatever you have to do in order to rectify that situation, and then move forward. Don't stay stuck in situations. You have too much life to live, too much to look forward to. So don't give up at all. Do you rehearse negative conversations? Then I want to encourage you to stop it. That's the anointed word today for you. Stop thinking negatively about yourself. Stop rehearsing those negative conversations. That's the prophetic word to you today. Stop it. And get into the word and think on the things of God. Think on the good things, that God has made you the head and not the tail, that he's made you above and not beneath, that he causes you to prosper whatever you put your hands to, that if you meditate on his word day and night, that it will bring you into good success, that if you meditate on the word, that he will make you like a tree that is planted by the rivers of the water that brings forth fruit in its season. Those are all things that God will do for you. Think on those things. Those are the things that will move you forward. There's so many scriptures going in my head. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't mixing them up with one another. But the bottom line is there is more good for you, more good waiting for you, more positive opportunities there for you than there are negative opportunities. Leave those things behind and press toward the mark moving forward. Do you focus on the things that you cannot do rather than the giftings that God has put in you and the things that you can do? And it may not be perfect when you come out of it, when you initially start doing it, but practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get at it. If you are looking at things that people are doing and they seem to have perfected the craft or perfected whatever they're doing, I want you to think about how long they've been doing it. I guarantee you, if you go back and look at the first tape or the first recording or the first product that they put out, it probably wasn't glamorous. They've made some tweaks, they made some changes the more they did it. Even as they grew as individuals, that's another thing. As you grow as an individual, you'll begin to do things differently and shape things differently and look at it from a different perspective and handle it a little differently. So give yourself grace to grow, grace to make mistakes. But the most important thing is to get started on whatever you want to do in moving forward. Don't stay stagnant because of past mistakes. As a man thinks in his heart, as a woman thinks in her heart, so is she. You can do it. So what do you think about yourself? I want to ask you that again. Maybe even write that down. What do I think about myself? And maybe list 3 or 4 things, pros or positives and negatives. What do I think about myself? And anything that you write down that's a negative, I want you to put a positive next to it. You cross that negative thing out and put something positive in its place. As a woman, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, so is she. You know, in previous teachings, we talked about the heart being the epicenter of who we are. It is kind of the place where everything stems from. You know, it's the control panel. It's kind of like home base where everything comes back to and everything is controlled out of. So think about what we've allowed to get into our heart: bitterness, unforgiveness, maybe being disgruntled, being angry, being sad, even the hurt. And you probably have a right to be hurt about. Oh, wow, sorry. You probably have a right to be hurt about whatever thing you're hurt about. You have that right. But let me encourage you, just because you have the right to be hurt doesn't mean that it is good for you to hold on to it. Because you hold on to that hurt, and wherever you're holding on to that hurt at, you're holding on to that branch. Let's say it's a branch, and that hurt is equivalent to that branch. You cannot move forward. You can't even back up. You can't go to the side because you're holding on to that branch, or you're holding on to that hurt. Let go of it. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes, you know what, maybe you need to go to a therapist to help you work through that. Maybe sometimes you need to just cut everything off and sit quietly and really think about those feelings and those emotions and write down what you're feeling and what you're going through so that you're able to work through those feelings properly. Maybe you just need to talk to somebody, a friend, a priest, a pastor, or a confidant. Maybe it's just something that you need to just look at and just say, you know what? I am not going to put my energy into that hurt anymore. I'm going to let go of that branch and I'm going to move forward, because as long as I'm holding into it, it's only holding on to it. It's only going to let me go so far in any direction. And so that means it's going to keep you stagnant. Just let go, or figure out how to let go. Go through the process, because once you've done the work, then you're stronger and you're free and you're able to move into a bright future. As a man or woman thinks in his heart, so is he or she. So whatever documents you have programmed in your heart, I want you to think about this. Your heart, your life runs off of that. So whatever you have downloaded in your heart, that's the program that your life is running off of. That's how it's moving forward. If there is a program of hurt or jealousy or envy, or you feel like you've been abandoned, the decisions that you make, the answers that you give, the course that you take comes from that place of hurt, of being abandoned, of being left behind, or being rejected. The epicenter of your heart helps you make decisions. It's the baseline from which we make decisions. So think about what's prominent in your heart. Think about those roots that are prominent in your heart. And if they aren't good, then let's work on making them good. Let's work on changing what's happening in our heart. If you see yourself as a loser with low self-esteem, with someone who's envious, or things of that nature, your heart's going to follow that roadmap generated by those emotions. It's going to follow that roadmap generated by those emotions. Your heart follows the roadmap generated by the emotions that are strongest in your heart. And sometimes what we see on the surface is not really what is the root. Like, there are people who are angry, but anger is a byproduct of being hurt. So underneath that anger is someplace where a little boy was hurt, but now that little boy is a 36-year-old man. Or somewhere underneath where that little girl was hurt, but now that little girl is 24 and she's a 24-year-old little girl who's acting in angry ways, angry responses, has an angry reputation. But underneath all of that anger is hurt. So that's why I'm saying maybe there's somebody that you need to talk to who's able to talk about whether it's a secondary emotion or it's the root cause. The important thing is to get to the root cause of why we do what we do in the epicenter of our heart, because then we can change the outcome. We can change what happens on the surface. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's important. So I ask you again, what do you think about yourself? I really want you to think about that. Not if you think that you're pretty, or not just that, but think about how you see yourself from the inside out. So here's your pearl of wisdom. There are internal conversations that we all have. Let's try to change those conversations. If they're negative, change them to positive conversations, because what we tell ourselves internally is the way that we act out externally. So know that the conversations that you're having that nobody will ever hear are the things that are controlling you, and the actions that you take, the decisions that you make. Those quiet conversations that you have when you're all alone, in your car, in your home, in your bed, and even when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, even those things that are subconscious, you may not even realize what you're saying to yourself. But be conscious of it. Sit quietly for a minute and maybe even write down what you feel, what you really feel. And that will give you the platform from which to come from, so that you'll know how to rectify situations and issues and concerns or the issues that are in your heart. Listen, we thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. We know that it's valuable. Again, we ask you to like, share, and to subscribe. And guess what? We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.